Hi, I'm Charles with Handicap. Previously, a man named Bai is constantly reminded of the fact that he has not been able to have a breakthrough into the next realm of cultivation even after 3,000 years. He demonstrates his strength though and is asked by a princess named Wei to help investigate the strange happenings in her kingdom. The story continues as Wei sits with her father's future wife Su as she tries on some dresses. Wei realizes her father's heart has been weak lately and offers to help Su put on more layers of clothing. Another look at Su's scar reminds Wei of the stories Su had told her about how she is the child of a human and a monster king. Thousands of years ago, a war broke out between humans and monsters, and the monster king was just a warrior in the monster's army. The monster king impregnated a woman and wanted to kill the child, which was Su. She was able to survive, but her mother had to sacrifice her life in order to do so. Su states that even though her mother was a human, Su was the only one of the monster king's children that fully inherited his monster bloodline. This is why the Monster King wants her back and why he framed her for the zombie chaos. He thinks that making the humans hate her will force her back to the monster realm. She vows to never go back though and reveals that she has been preventing the monsters from killing again in the mortal world. Wei wants to rush back to the kingdom and tell everyone Su is innocent. In order to do that though, they must find who is behind the zombie chaos, so Wei offers her assistance. Elsewhere, Sima is informed that the worship ceremony was arranged as he had ordered, and we see that it means the children being sacrificed are in the correct order. They have been given enough drugs to be unconscious until the ceremony, but when the guards leave, Bai transforms back into himself and wakes them up. The worship ceremony begins as Sima asks for the ancestors to help the emperor marry Su, and everyone takes their place. A platform that is supposed to be holding the children for sacrifice is raised, but Sima is shocked to find that they are missing. They appear nearby along with Bai and celebrate the arrival of the Emperor's bride. She announces her desire to marry the king and demands that Sima tell the Monster King that she will not be returning to him. Sima explains that his plan is still in effect and the humans will soon hate her since no matter what she does, she will always be a monster. However, Bai is able to determine that Sima is actually someone named Chewy, a tree monster whose mother was killed by Bai. Chewy then reveals his true form, shocking everyone, and vows to avenge his mother. Su begs that Chewy stop since he is no match against Bai, but Chewy knows that Bai is still only in the beginner realm and begins his attack. Bai explains that he had planned to let Chewy go free, but after being spit on, decides to defeat him instead. Bai proves that he is serious when his attack easily turns the tree monster into several pieces of furniture. Chewy, who is now a chair, asks to be finished off, but Bai wants to know if he was responsible for the bloodthirsty spell in the tombs. Chewy explains that the old emperor wanted to be revived and before his death, planned to have his own people sacrificed. He states that the humans are just as bad as monsters and questions why Su has chosen their side. Su explains that she hasn't chosen a side and just wants to stop the war. Chewy then explains that the spell doesn't require the children to be sacrificed, and using Su's blood that descends from the ancestors' blood of Dragon Ball is another way to activate it. The spell is then activated from the rose with Su's blood on it, and the trio determine that it's time for Plan B. Bai exposes the spell and explains that Su is the only one who can go in to stop it. It's a vicious spell that is even forbidden by demons that establishes a bond with the people within 100 miles. If the spell is broken, the bond will break and harm the people. The plan was for Bai to rescue the children and for Wei to capture the culprit, but if the spell was activated, then they planned to break the spell with force. However, this meant that at least 10,000 people would die. Bai explains that since Wei has inherited the blood of Dragon Ball, she can cut off the bond with no harm to the people. However, this means that the ancestor will suck her blood, perhaps killing her, and use it to revive himself. Down in the temple, the ancestor is glad to see that Wei has come to revive him, and explains that the zombies were simply a sacrifice to help him become immortal. Wei can't believe how terrible the ancestor's actions are and attempts to break the spell. The ancestor reveals that he doesn't care about the bond with the people anymore since he now has her blood of Dragon Ball to feast on. Wei successfully ends the spell and Bai jumps down to help, but the ancestor has taken her blood already. The ancestor explains how he has used the blood to reach the highest realm, and Wei states how they can't let him get away and must be killed. Bai isn't worried one bit though, and the ancestor explains that he can tell that Bai is still in the beginning realm. Of course, the ancestor is stunned when Bai displays just how powerful he is and questions how that can be. Bai doesn't waste his time answering though and just tosses the ancestor around like a doll. The ancestor apologizes and explains that he no longer wants to be revived. Bai wants to show him a secret martial art of the blood sector first and uses the broken bone punch. Bai puts the ancestor back in his coffin and goes to comfort Wei. Wei wants the Imperial Temple burned and so Bai sets it ablaze. Afterwards, the damage is being cleaned up and Bai has a memory from his past. He was surrounded by monsters as a child when a man appeared to invite him on the path of cultivation. In the present, Bai explains to Ling that he is responsible for the trouble since he hasn't taken the wrong souls away. Ling explains that Bai's soul is still a top priority, but heads into the temple to take care of the wrong souls. Su arrives to say that Wei will be fine thanks to her blood of Dragon Ball, and we see that Wei tastes it to find that there isn't much special about it. Su had explained the legend where a goddess and the immortal dragon fell in love and gave birth to a daughter. This means Wei's blood is precious and must be kept a secret since revealing it would put her in danger. Wei then wonders if Bai is really so powerful since he is stuck in the beginner realm. Su explains that Bai is very unique, and even though he is in the beginner realm, Bai is respected by cultivators and demons as a sword master. He keeps the order, and if it wasn't for him, the entire realm would be in chaos. Elsewhere, Ling explains to Bai that being reincarnated isn't so bad and urges him to stop resisting his fate. Bai wants an extension on his life as he is not ready to be reincarnated, and explains that he is close to breaking through to the next realm. Ling laughs at how Bai has been saying the same thing for 3,000 years, and points out how there are only 2 days left on his 10-day life extension. Back at the kingdom, the emperor expresses his gratitude towards Bai for his help, and asks that he take care of his daughter from now on. Bai tries to get out of it, but the emperor explains that she just needs to be trained a bit, and their children will be able to protect the kingdom for a long time. Wei points out that she just needs training and not a husband. Bai explains that he can't since he will be traveling a lot, but Wei says she won't be much of a bother. Bai is still hesitant, and Wei wonders if he is just afraid that she will surpass him. Their bickering is stopped with a celebration dinner, and the two later find themselves in bed, where Bai explains that she is probably better off without him since her blood can make her a target while traveling. Later, Bai is fighting a cloaked man, and we see that it is actually Ling who is there to explain that Bai's 10-day extension on his life has ended. Bai continues to beg for an extension just as a pearl is thrown into his mouth. Consuming it prolongs his life for another 4 years and 355 days, so Ling must leave. It was thanks to Su, but Bai complains about the bitter taste of the medicine. Su becomes upset, but Bai explains that the document Feng gave him earlier has probably already been translated and leaves. Ling wonders why Su bothers to help Bai so much, but she points out how Ling has always helped him as well. Elsewhere, Wei begs Yanzi to have Bai train her, but he explains that he doesn't make those decisions. After hearing how she wants to protect her people though, he agrees to help convince him, but explains that Bai is training currently and no one dares to bother him. Yanzi explains that there might be a way to see him though, and states how they have recently been attacked by thunder beasts. The repairs have left them with little money, and hints at how her buying something to take to him would help her cause. Wei agrees to send over a large sum the next day, and Yanzi gladly gives her a ride up the mountain. Bai is annoyed to see Wei and demands that all the elders leave since they're just there to hear gossip. Wei explains that they were carrying gifts for him, but he only cares about the partially translated document that Yanzi has brought. Bai asks that he leave, but is surprised to see that he has left Wei. That night, Bai explains that students will arrive the next day to take her down the mountain, but she states that she wants to stay and be a student. Bai turns his attention to the document, but notices that the translation is just as hard to read as the original. However, it turns out that Wei has experience interpreting inscriptions, and he asks her to translate the rest. He is impatient with her though, and she says that she might as well just go back to being an idle princess. Before she can leave, Bai stops her and agrees to make her his student. Later, Bai greets Wei, who he now calls his precious student, as she translates the scripture that holds the secret to his potential breakthrough. Some spilled soup enrages her, but Bai returns moments later to find that she has finished the translation. He can't read her writing though, so she explains that the writing records the existence of someone referred to as the Land Immortal. He is a person free of life and death, but the writing doesn't say anything about how Bai can reach the next realm. Bai can't believe that's all it says and assumes that Feng must not have copied everything on the stone scripture. He decides that he must go copy it himself and tells Wei to prepare for some training. Outside, they wait for their ride, and Feng arrives to explain that he rushed there immediately without even changing clothes first. He is shocked to hear that Bai wants to go to a place called the Great Desolation since he just came from there. Feng explains that he is no idiot and is sure he copied the stone tablet exactly. Bai convinces him to go by saying he may find a way for himself to reach a higher realm, and tells Wei that it will be her training. She is now hesitant since it sounds like a dangerous place, but Bai promises to protect her. The journey is a bit long and they encounter several exotic animals along the way. One of them is actually quite ferocious, but Feng takes care of it easily. He isn't humble about it or how he passed the Immortal's test. Bai points out that his Immortal test was less severe since he has not done much evil, and those that have done worse things have a more difficult test, sometimes even resulting in the Immortals killing them. They finally arrive at where Fang thinks the tablet was, but there is nothing there but sand. Wei finds a cute set of eyes, but Bai must save her when it turns out to be a vicious monster. Fang kills it but must be asked by Bai to roll in the sand since he now stinks. Wei is injured though, and the blood from her wound activates a spell that reveals the stone tablet. The tablet is much larger than Fang remembers, and Bai asks Wei to begin translating. The second she touches the tablet though, an earthquake begins and an entire city emerges from the ground. The place is quite frightening though, and people can be heard but not seen. Wei mentions how the tablet said something about the land immortal being good at spatial magic, and they assume the voices might be from souls in the Hades realm. Bai wonders if she saw anything about having a breakthrough, but she didn't have time to read the rest of the tablet. As they go further into the city, a loud bell can be heard, and Fang points out that their spiritual energy is being taken away. They notice that Bai ended up ahead of them and realize that her low cultivation level has resulted in her being attracted by the bell. Bai attempts to get Wei to gather her spiritual energy, but she doesn't, and Bai decides to counteract the sound with his own sword. It works, and he tells Fang to get her away from the sound of the bell. Bai stays though and finds the tablet so that he can copy the writing. It's simple enough at first, but the tablet starts sinking faster and Bai has to rush. He manages to finish, but Wei has lost most of her spiritual energy, and we see a spell activate as they leave. Back at Bai's mountain, Fang and Yunzi check to see how well Wei is recovering. Bai emerges to tell them that they are being too loud and that Wei will make a full recovery since he gave her some of his spiritual energy. Bai hands them a copy of the stone tablet and instructs them to find someone to translate it immediately. Elsewhere, one of the orbs released from the spell at the stone tablet traverses some land and enters a tree. A while later, two travelers find that the area where the tree was now has a large building in its place. A look inside shows a mysterious robed person sitting on a throne. Thanks for watching part 2, future parts will be in a pinned comment below.